All right, welcome to another episode of Homestead Shop Talk podcast with Ben from Hollar Homestead, Al from Lumnah Acres, and myself, Jason from Sow the Land. Episode 31, and I have a question for you guys right off the bat. So when you open up, when you're doing your own videos on your channels, do you find yourself, like, as soon as you turn on the camera and you start recording yourself, so you start talking about the weather?
Oh, yeah. Right away.
Absolutely.
Is that like a habit or is it on purpose? Would you say? Or it just comes out?
I think it's habit. Like, it just comes out. It's like, hey, it's a beautiful day. And then, bam, I'm talking about the weather.
I know.
But how much of it is because the lifestyle we live revolves around the weather? Like, you kind of got to know what the weather is, so what you're doing, or you're out in the elements anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Mind. I know, but like, it kind of, it sometimes it drives me nuts. Like, for me, I think it's a habit because I'm like, it's a combination between a habit and then, like, I don't know what to say, like, in the opening. And so sometimes I'm just like, hey, what a beautiful day today, you know, like, but then in my mind, I'm like, do people care that it's cold out, like, at where I'm at? You know, I feel like they should, like, just figure it out by me doing the video.
See, like, where I'm at with it, the reason I bring it up is I kind of think about my mom living out in California, and I remember how much I hated the fact that it was sunny every single day, and there was no winter. There, like, it goes straight from like 40 degrees cold to 90 or 100 just, you know, by February. And so when I'm talking about the weather, it's like, yeah, that's right. We got rain this week twice.
I know. It's kind
Sorry,
of funny,
Mom.
though. All of a sudden, we become the weatherman. So yeah, so today's podcast, we're just gonna talk about our week and see what's going on.
How was your weather today?
Yeah,
It was beautiful.
it was actually nice today.
Was it? We started out -3, and it was like 30 for a high, so quite a bit of a swing. I'll take it. We're supposed to be like in the 30s and in the 40s later on during the week, so
That's quite a swing.
yeah.
Yeah, this weekend was miserable. This is the kind of weather we, as you know, former Californians, we're not used to. One of my mini splits went out, and so
Ooh.
you know, coldest day of the year. It was the mini split in our bedroom. It actually went out the night of our last class, and so, you know, the repair guy, he's out. Saturday morning he came. You know, it was like 8 degrees that morning. He pulls up and he's over there working on that thing, and I just sat out there and talked to him. I know the guy. And we sat out there for 3 hours. Like, by the time we were done, he had brought a heater. I had went and got a couple of my propane heaters, and we're just standing there shivering, talking while he's like diagnosing this thing. But yeah, it was pretty miserable to be out in that cold, just standing, not doing anything.
Did he fix it?
Yeah, he got it fixed. I had a leak. He said we're doing pretty good. It went in almost 4 years ago, and we've never had a problem with it. And I guess it recently developed a leak, and so it had lost enough refrigerant to where the heat was no longer working. So he, you know, it takes a minute to diagnose everything and get the thing to run through all of its speeds and pressure up. He had a lot of really cool equipment that would have made installing the things a heck of a lot easier. Like, he had all the tools of the trade. Everything is all of his diagnostic tools are ran through his phone, so he's sitting there with his phone, and he's like, oh yeah, the compressor's on, and this is pressuring up, and here's this and here's that, and it's like, oh man, that's pretty slick. But yeah, he added some refrigerant and got the leak fixed, so we're back up in business.
So how cold is it, Al? So you said it's warming up?
Yeah, see, right now, I'll open up the weather app. We are 28 degrees right now. It was -3 this morning. So it started warming up pretty quick. It's supposed to be 30s during the week, and then I think like Thursday, Friday, So basically, when people are hearing this podcast, we're going to be 40s in rain.
Nice.
So you're getting the same weather front we are. I
Okay.
think by like Thursday, Friday, we're supposed to get pretty close to 70 degrees and rainy.
Wow. So we're 40s in rain, but 70s, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's
Lot of rain?
Yeah, we're supposed to get a bunch of rain. You know, if you pay attention to the weather app, they're like, oh yeah, it's going to rain from Tuesday night until like Monday. It's like, I don't think so. I bet you we get like a good solid day of rain on like Thursday or something like that. But I would be inclined to believe that we'll see pretty close to 70.
That's a big swing. You guys were just 8 degrees, this weekend?
Yeah, Saturday. Yeah, it's playing on the nerves. It's like, just get cold and stay cold, or get warm and stay warm, but don't do these swings. And honestly, I don't know if I'm speaking for everybody, but we want some freaking snow down here. It's like, bring on the snow.
Yeah.
You just got it. Some places of Tennessee got some decent snow, and I think Texas actually got snow too.
So it basically, like, the snow came in and went completely around us. It snowed in Georgia, it snowed in Tennessee, and we're just right here where we're at in North Carolina, not getting any snow. Pretty sure it snowed in the mountains. We were out driving around on what was that, Friday or something like that, and there's cars driving with like 6 inches of snow on their roofs. It's like, man, where the heck are they coming from?
Yeah, it's nice and sunny here. We got some wind. Every time it gets windy a lot, like I always look outside, and I'm expecting one of my chicken coops to flip over one of these days. But I'm like way overdue. It's never happened to me with my chicken coops, and I've always see it online where they get a good gust of wind and they flip over, but it hasn't happened yet. So
I don't think we've ever had one blow over.
So what's up, Al? You want to go first? What'd you do this week?
Sure, we did some more working on the barn. It seems like we're at the stage where we're jumping from project to project to project. So you got to put like different hats on every day, and I think the hardest part with that is you got to figure out what you need for parts and pieces, and then run to the store like 10 times and go get them, and then you switch project, and it's like, oh, today I'm doing electrical. Now I got to go figure out what I need for electrical supplies. Oh, now today I'm making custom gates, so I need to go figure out, this or that. And so so we've been working on building the pocket gates. We got those down. And then we did some livestock panels with built-in gates as dividers. And we had to customize those to fit in the walls that we were building. So we needed to figure out how to attach them to the walls. So I needed T-nuts, and then I was going online, and Tractor Supply said they had 10. Home Depot said they had like 30. Lowe's said they had a bunch. Well, you go to every store and their inventory is way off. One person had like one person had two, and so it was like I'm running from store to store to store, and I'm like, what is going on? And then I kept getting the wrong size bolt, so I'd have to run back to town, waste a couple of hours running to town to find.
Yeah.
Don't
they know I'm trying to film something?
Right.
That's how it goes.
Yep. So I'm like thinking in my head, I'm like, okay, the workshop's not finished. How do I finish the workshop, and what do I want to put inside the workshop so we can kind of help all that out with a bolt bin and just, I don't know, trying to be more organized, I guess. So next time we're working on projects, we're not wasting hours on end. That's the hard part, because you're running around and you're like, I got to film, I got to get this done. People don't want to watch another day of this video.
I know, and it's like I don't want to film at the hardware store sometimes,
Yep. Yeah, I don't mind filming sometimes, but then if you go and it's busy, and one day I went, it was a holiday, so it was just, Home Depot was just mobbed. It's like, nope, not taking the camera out today.
Actually, like, it's less weird to pull your phone out and talk to your phone than it is to break out a camera. Like, nobody looks at you twice if you're talking to a phone, but you break out a camera, oh, this weirdo.
I'll bring my GoPro with me. That's what I've been doing lately when I go into a hardware store. And I'll just like put it, because it's so tiny.
Mm-hmm.
You
shut the beep off.
Yeah, and then you just like I'll put it like on the shelf while I do my thing.
Yep.
Sometimes I think like they're looking at me through the cameras, wondering what this guy's doing.
Right. I used to do my GoPro with the stores. Now I just bring my phone. But the worst part with the phone is you don't have a stand. Like with your GoPro, you can have like a little magnetic stand or something, so you can just clip it somewhere. But with the phone, it's kind of like, oh, you have no place to set it.
When I first started doing the videos, I would take in my big camera.
Yep.
Like my big old Canon with a big old mic on it. I would take that whole thing in there and just have it. 9 times out of 10, people would stop me and like, what are you doing there? What is that? And I just tell them, and then they're cool about it. But it was just kind of funny. I would just I'd be filming myself in the aisle with this big old camera.
Why is this
big old rig like that sends a signal?
I know. Right. But then you tell them, and they're like, "Oh, cool," like, "Oh, let me check you out,"
So I think that's the worst part about doing the big projects and doing all of it, is having to wear different hats. It's not a bad thing, but it's like trying to go from one project. So does this happen to you guys? Like, I'm going from one project to another project. I got to like stop and train my brain to think, okay, no, I'm not doing carpentry right now. I'm doing metal fab. Or, oh, nope, now I'm done with metal fab. Now I got to rethink, I'm doing electrical. So it's like you just kind of got to go from one direction to another and be like, okay, not how do I do this like you forgot, but like, what do I need to do for this project? What tools do I need to go get? What items do I need? And and then just bouncing back and forth. That's the harder part. But I enjoy doing all of it, but it's just going from one step to another step. That transition.
Yeah, that's what makes it fun.
Right.
Because you're not doing just one thing forever. It's so much multiple things.
The good thing about doing it yourself too is you don't got to wait on, say like you need to do electrical in this phase. You don't got to wait on the electrician to come and do this part, so then you can do the next part of the building process. You can do it all yourself.
Kind of like waiting on an HVAC guy.
Right. So you've just been doing that, working in the cold. It's not any fun when it was negative and windy, and we're doing metal inside, which is nice, but this is not the time of the year to be doing metal siding and having to hold metal siding in your hands and metal screws.
It's a little bit chilly.
A little chilly for that. Right now with the electrical, I'm doing instead of doing metal conduit, I'm doing the wire that's wrapped in the metal, it's like an accordion wrap. So that's all cold. So you're pulling all that wire and clamps, and like, I should have been doing this in the warm weather. It's supposed to warm up this week, so I'm going to try to finish up most of the electrical while it's warmer. So that way it's a little bit easier. But it's not any fun trying to do electrical with gloves on, so you got to take them off, then your hands get cold. And you guys know how it is after this weekend. The cold's always whatever, but it makes it even worse when you get the big swings. Like, we haven't been like super cold or cold very long, so every time you go from like the dips, you don't get used to it. We're going to be 40s again this week, and then we'll probably drop off to teens and single digits. So it's like your blood can't thicken up, if that makes sense, and keep you warm.
Yeah, sometimes you're looking at there like, man, I don't want to go out there.
Right.
8 degrees.
Yep.
Those pigs are waiting.
They are. The dairy cow's got to get milked. She don't care.
Oh man,
that's for sure.
And you're milking that dairy cow at -3?
Oh yeah. Yep.
Nice. She doesn't care what temperature it is.
No, she don't care. She wants her food. She wants her water.
Yeah.
But the one good thing, it was a beautiful morning when it was negative. No, it wasn't this morning. This morning was beautiful. At 1 a.m, I think it was like 8, and it was beautiful. And like I said to Gina, I'm like, if it wasn't for the cow, we wouldn't be outside enjoying the beauty right now. It had snowed, I think, 2 inches overnight, like heavy wet stuff. So it was just like stuck to the trees, glistening. It looked like like a scene from a movie kind of thing. So it's like if we didn't have the cow, we'd be inside going, I don't want to go outside. It's cold out. But the animals force you outside to enjoy all that.
Yeah. I guess that's a good way of looking at it.
That's how I try to look at it. Keep it positive, right?
Yeah.
So I started welding up my frames today for my sliding barn doors. I'm doing them out of angle iron. So a question for you, Ben. When you're doing your 45s, do you cut them at a 45-degree angle, your ends? Or do you notch them out and kind of like slide one up over the other and then weld them that way?
Honestly, it depends on what I'm in the mood for. if I've got, like, I used to have a chop saw, and I'd just set that up and I'd just miter all of them. I just had kind of a cheap chop saw, and so when you're making a square, you can cut a little bit greater than 45, and it makes it easier to, get that square that you're building nice and square. I don't know. It just depends. Sometimes I notch them. Sometimes I, miter them. I don't know. I don't know why I haven't stuck with one over the years, but it just depends on what I'm in the mood for.
Depends how fancy you want to be.
Depends on how much grinding I want to do.
Right. I did the notching today. I found that worked good. We'll find out.
Basically, how it works for me is if I miter everything and the miter saw is not right and I'm having to go back and grind everything and fix it and just fighting it, then the next time I'm going to do the notching instead.
Yep.
And then if I have a bad time with that, I'll go back. That I think I just summed up the past 20 years. So yeah, that's what I do.
Right. Back and forth.
Yep.
Assuming when you do your MIG welding, you have a MIG welder that has the gas. What is it, argon gas? What is it that MIG welders use?
You can use straight argon for just MIG welding. I just use CO2 because it's cheap.
Okay.
I've used CO2 for years and years. It used to be
Really?
$11. It used to be $11 to fill up my little tank. I think it's about it's like $30-$40 to fill it up now, but it'll last a couple projects.
Yep.
But yeah, I suppose like the best thing to use is a bottle of 75-25, so it's mostly CO2 and then argon. That's really the best for MIG welding. But anytime you get argon, it's freakishly expensive nowadays, so I just stick with the CO2.
I've been using the flux core or whatever. I don't think it gives as nice of a weld, but I've never done a bunch of welding, so that's my excuse anyways. It feels like it just pops and it's more of like stick welding, I guess. I feel like.
What welder do you have?
I have the Harbor Freight orange
Vulcan?
one.
The Vulcan.
The Vulcan, yeah.
Yeah, I got the Harbor Freight orange one. I am pleasantly surprised with the quality of that machine. I had Lincoln. I've had a Lincoln for, gosh, I think I was 18. So yeah, it's been 20 years that I've had that Lincoln, and I finally upgraded because the Lincoln was starting to break, and I got that Harbor Freight Vulcan. And honestly, it welds. If you can hook it up to 220, it welds even better. But running on, 120, or 110, it runs so smooth for a welder like that. Every time I run it, it's just like, man, this is suspiciously nice running for the price. It runs like a $3,000 Miller.
So I only ran at 110. I finally got a 220 plug in the workshop, but now I can't find my 220 plug for the welder because it comes with both. I'm like, oh, what do I do with my 220 plug? Because I want to try it as a 220, but I can't. So I grew up in the body shop. We did welding, but never a ton. But we always had like millers and stuff. Any of the millers I've ever used, the Vulcan welds better than. But I mean, we've always had, everybody used it in the body shops, the mechanical garages I was in. It wasn't like one that was somebody took care of. So I can't really say that it was the welder's fault, but I was pleasantly surprised with how well the Vulcan welds, especially for the price. I think it was like $300 or $400 a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I paid like $1,400 for mine. It's the nicest one they sold at the time. And man, when you turn that machine all the way up, when you're plugged into 220, it'll run a bead the size of like a stack of quarters. Like it is just incredibly hot. I was welding something that was like half-inch thick, and it was like, well, let's see what this sucker can do. I turned that thing all the way up. Shocking how much heat that thing can put out. Like I was amazed. It was like, out of a Harbor Freight machine, this is pretty impressive. Yeah, I'm pretty happy. Yeah, and it's still working.
Still working. And I don't know. Anytime the welds I ever used before, like the millers and stuff, they'd always bind up and jam up. I haven't had any issues with the Vulcan myself.
Yeah, me neither. The Harbor Freight flux core wire is actually pretty good too. That was the main thing I remember about using all the Lincoln flux core wire is if you know you need one roll, buy 2 or 3 of them because it's going to split inside the liner while you're welding and get all jammed up and stuck, and you're going to have to pull it all back out and waste, 10 feet. That was my experience. When I've used the flux core on the Harbor Freight machine, it's their wire and their machine. I have never had a single problem with it. Like, it's really a solid machine.
Yep. So anytime I've used Miller's, that's always been my issue, even without flux core wire. And I've never had any issues with the Vulcan. And I always use the flux core. Like, I always just get that Harbor Freight. We got a Harbor Freight right in town. So I just run down there and I'll pick up 2 rolls at a time and always have it on hand kind of thing. So
That's good to know. I have a hand-me-down Lincoln that I've had. It's probably like 20 years old, over 20 years old.
I think you got the same one. I still have it. I just don't use it anymore.
Yeah.
I think you got the same one.
Yeah, I think probably. I mean, it was my dad's, and he gave it to me. It's funny, like, I never did welding before, and then, like, the week we were supposed to leave California to North Carolina, like, move, he was like, I have this welder. He's like, take it. He's like, I don't know if you're going to need, he's like, you're probably going to need it at some point. He's like, but I've never, like me, I never had weld ever. My dad, that's what he did. Like, he welded, but he never, like, I never learned how to weld. So like that week I was going to leave to North Carolina. He's like, let me teach you how to weld real quick. It was like a crash course on welding, like for like 2 days. And he's like, just simple stuff, and then he gave me the welder. He's like, yeah, you might use that someday. So, I use it, but not, yeah. I'm waiting to do, like, I'll probably end up doing like some bigger project one day and then buy a new one or something. But
my little Lincoln welder, I would say that thing paid for itself 100 times over. Like, I used that thing. Back when I used to do wrought iron fences and stuff like that, man, that thing, it was worth its weight in gold.
have you ever used a Harbor Freight plasma cutter? Are they any good? Do you know?
I don't know. I've never used the Harbor Freight plasma cutter. All the plasma cutters I used were like really expensive ones various shops I've worked at have had, or really beat up old ones that cut all wonky. But I've been curious. I'm not curious enough to buy one because if I buy one, I got to get an air compressor big enough and all that stuff. So it's like, I got oxyacetylene torches. I'll just stick with that. I don't do a lot of cutting like that anyways. Most everything I do, I can do with a bandsaw or the grinder with a zip disc.
That's been my week in a nutshell so far. So how's your cowhide coming out there, Ben?
If I had a little bit more time to work on it, I didn't work on it this weekend because it was, a skin sickle. It was so blasted cold. It was like, I'm not going to go mix up a whole bunch of egg and start tanning this thing because it'll freeze solid while I'm working on it. So I ended up not getting to touch it this weekend, but got everything scraped. Like, as far as I can tell, I'm ready to tan it. I know tanning it is going to be quite a job. The method I'm going to try is you use like a paddle and you sit there and you basically break the fibers with this paddle as you're putting all your egg on. So it has to be warm enough for the egg to soak in, but not cold enough to where it's going to freeze. But yeah, right now it's like it feels like plastic. It feels like I have a big, like a kind of like this table I'm sitting here with the laptop on. It just feels like this hard cracker thing. I'm actually afraid I'm going to like poke through it. When I was scraping it, I was like, man, I really hope I don't tear this thing, punch through it. Some of the thinner areas, like where the legs were and stuff like that. Yeah, it's pretty thin.
Have your chickens been laying a lot of eggs right now for you? Do you have enough eggs to tan it with?
No, I actually had to buy eggs for this project. We are having serious problems with egg eaters right now. At this point, I'm ready to build a gallows, and every time I find a chicken that is eating eggs, I'm just going to send them straight to the gallows. And it's both coops. It's the yard birds, it's the chickens in the coop, all of them. And it's not for lack of food either. I can feed them stuff. There's still feed on the ground later in the day. And it's just like, okay, like what's going on? I've got them oyster shells. I've got them everything that they could want. And they're still just eating their eggs. So I know once they start doing that, it's really, really hard to break them of it. I'm not going to like put up with it very long, or at least, I say that, but here it is. We've been dealing with this problem for like 2 months now. But yeah, it's getting to the point. It's like, hey, you know what, ladies, spring is coming. You better quit eating all your eggs. We need some eggs. We'll just get new chicks in the spring and we'll just start over.
Yeah, we had to buy eggs. Also, ours are not hardly laying.
If we go out and check eggs like every hour or so throughout the day, we're getting like 14 eggs a day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so like it's not like they're not laying. I think it's like one or two that are like sitting there waiting for someone to lay an egg and then they bust it and eat it right out from under them. I think that's what's going on. But man, it's just frustrating. Like I don't have time. Nobody has the time to sit there and watch the chickens lay eggs so you can snatch them up and save them. But I mean, I suppose if that was the only food we had, we'd be singing a different story.
We've had good luck with the roll-away nesting boxes to help with that. But in the wintertime, we put them in a different coop. We don't have the roll-away nesting box, so it kind of, they eat them a lot more this time of the year on us.
We've actually got a roll-away nest box in the coop, and there's only like 2 chickens that'll use it. The rest of them would rather get under it and lay on the ground. So, I've tried to, embrace that, and I put a whole bunch of hay down there underneath. And it's like, well, maybe, if it's nice, clean hay, at least the eggs will stay clean. Yeah, no, they just lay them under there and then bust them and eat them. All right, I talked about this in, I'm not sure if I talked about this last week, but I figured I would share it this week. I think I told both of you guys, we finally sat down and did all of our numbers for how much meat we put in the freezer last year. And we ended up putting 2,200 pounds of meat in the freezer. That's sheep, that's chicken, that's beef, and pork. That is the most, like, that's over a pallet. Like, a pallet is 2,000 pounds. Like, this, it's just kind of like a weird thought to think about. So, yeah, I was kind of blown away when we sat down and figured out the numbers. It was like, wow, that's a lot of meat. And I'm sure there's people that are going to be like horrified and be like, what do you need that much meat for? And it's like, well, we're going to eat it. If you saved up every chunk of meat that you bought throughout the year and weighed it, you'd probably be up there too. Like, that's everything. Every burger you eat, every steak you eat, every roast, every, chicken leg, if you added it all up, it'd be a bunch.
Not just what you cook at home either.
Yeah.
Like everything.
Yeah.
Everything. You get at the restaurant.
Yeah. Divide that by how many people per pound.
Right.
Yeah, it's a good point. That's a really good point. I hadn't done that yet. I could do that right now.
The whole year? That's incredible. Yeah, that's awesome. We should do that. I don't think we've ever added everything up before.
No, we haven't.
Yeah, it's 314 pounds per person in our house.
For the whole year.
Yeah, if it's 300 some odd pounds, that's not even a pound of meat a day.
Yeah, say it's 6 pounds a day. So that's, less than a pound a day for everybody to eat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Yeah, that's not that much in the grand scheme of things.
Nope. If you sit down and think about like how much food like it requires per person, and then if you just think about that, like what would your neighborhood, like what would your town, how much food does your town go through a day? Like, so like I'm on the board for a nonprofit, and one of the things that we oversee is a food pantry. So it's just kind of thinking about like, wow, like if anything ever happened, that's a lot. Like that's a lot of food. Like, where are you going to come up with all that to feed people?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's kind of a cool number, but we've talked about stuff like this ad nauseum. If everything went away, if the grocery store went away, could you feed yourself? It's like, well, yeah, like that's a great start, but what about everything else? Like we can't grow our wheat for bread. We can't, there's some stuff we will never be able to grow, like coffee,
Right.
but we could eat carnivore real good for about 6 months.
That's
Yep.
true.
Actually,
That's true.
I've been going to talk to you, Jason, about doing carnivore. You did carnivore, right?
I
So
did it for hardcore for 1 month, like,
1 month.
and then the next two I did for 3 months, but then the next 2 months, I was eating like dates and berries, so it wasn't like 100%, but yeah,
do you feel pretty good when you're doing it?
I did honestly. I did feel. I mean, I felt energized. I felt good. I felt a lot of energy, and I slept good. And I think really the only reason why I stopped is because we had a 2,000 square foot garden in my backyard
Right.
that I was staring at every day, and I was like, "Are you kidding me? I'm not eating those veggies," So for me, I think it kind of I felt like kind of sad about it because I wasn't eating all that colorful veggies and stuff that we were growing. And so I was like, you know what? I'm just going to start eating veggies,
Go back to the veggies.
I mean, we didn't eat bad to begin with.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like, oh, I'm going to go back eating fast food. It wasn't like that at all. It was
Right.
just like, I'm going to go back eating vegetables.
I don't think there's anything wrong with like listening to your body go, yeah, eat the vegetables.
Yeah. And it was enjoyable too. Like once you stop for a while and then you go back, you're like, wow, this is nice.
I
Like,
really missed potatoes.
yeah. Yeah. Like fries or like, crispy lettuce, like you kind of miss that in a way. Cause you're like, oh man, this is refreshing.
Especially if you're growing it all and you're putting all the effort in and you see it growing in your backyard. And yeah.
I think what really did well for me though is when I did like intermittent fasting in between. Like there was a day where I think I skipped 3 days of not eating.
Wow.
I really felt like that did a lot for me.
So 72 hours, no food.
No food. And it's amazing that you can do it. Like it really wakens your eyeballs up and thinks like when you think you're hungry, you're really not. Like maybe you're just bored and you just see other people eating, so you think you have to eat. It's very social. Like when your family eats dinner, you're like, oh, I gotta go eat. But really, I'm not hungry. I'm just eating because everyone else is eating. So it's kind of like a weird thing to think about. But I really feel like that did good for me. And I think that combination with the carnivore diet helped me get through that.
Yeah, having all this meat in the freezer, I've thought about doing the carnivore diet. And it's like, well, I'm pretty sure
try it.
you'd done it. It's like, I could try it, but at the same time, it's like, I really don't want to start plowing through all of our meat, especially because, like,
Yeah.
the meat that I would really, really like to eat, like, it'd be really easy to do a carnivore diet with all that steak out there in the freezer. But it's like, nah.
Bacon.
Yeah, steak and bacon. I don't really want to plow through it because I know I could. But
Yeah, I think we had
Prosciutto
bought.
for a snack.
yeah,
What did we do? It was a half a Dexter cow that we bought during that time, and I pretty much ate the whole half a cow in that time.
In 3 months. That's
Yeah,
good. Yeah.
I think it was. I
believe
don't
it.
remember how many pounds that was, but I think I pretty much ate the whole thing.
Yep.
you know what? Like doing what we're doing and putting the meat in the freezer, there's stuff like that. It's like, yeah, I absolutely could do carnivore. I've got lamb, beef, chicken, pork. I've got any meat I could want. I'm pretty sure I've got some deer buried in one of the freezers. Like I could eat anything I want. So absolutely I could do carnivore, but where I'm at with it is like, yeah, but we get more mileage out of it when we can, have a little bit of meat and a lot of vegetables out of the garden. Like it's really gratifying when everything on your plate is off your land. And like, I don't know, it's just like, it's a cool feeling when all the vegetables are yours, all the meat's yours. Like it's just cool. Like it's a cool feeling. I guess I got totally sidetracked. But about my week. Yeah, so besides the working on that hide, not a whole lot this past week. There was a lot of the behind the scenes work after a class. Meg made scrapple and canned stock and stuff like that to finish up, harvesting the pigs from that last class. But I mean, it's all done now. The last pigs are in the freezer. The stock is made. The scrapple's made. Everything's done and wrapped up. It's kind of a slower week last week. We didn't have a ton going on. We're enjoying the fact that it's like January and freakishly cold for us, and we're just not saying we're being lazy, but we're enjoying the downtime. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Jason, I got to see a little bit of what you were doing this week.
Yeah. You Ben brought back my refrigerator and working on fencing. So my father-in-law and mother-in-law are back. So if anyone's been watching our channel, we're getting so many comments asking me where my father-in-law's at because they miss seeing him on the channel. And I think they were gone for like 2 months or something. They were just on vacation. And people were messaging me. I mean, people were emailing me. They were like, "Where's your father-in-law, Randy? How come he's not out there helping you?"
That's funny.
I didn't say anything. I don't know. I didn't think people would notice, but they did. And so he's back this week, and he helped me with fencing today. And there's a good section that, man, it's amazing we can get done and with 2 people. Yeah, we're gonna finish that up tomorrow. That section tomorrow probably, and then what else? I mean, it was super cold this week. Of course, you don't want to go out there, but then on the coldest day, we decided to clean out one of our barns. And we have like a shed, and we have like our big old horse stall barn, and then we have this other barn that I think it was at one point it was on a different property. At some point, I don't know when, but they moved this whole barn to our land, like maybe in the 80s or something. And it was just a bunch of junk in there. And I figure if there's a time where you're going to clean out a bunch of junk in a barn, doing it in the winter is probably the better time.
Yep. Because
I don't want to be, digging up some snakes or something. Less likely of a snake in there. So I was like, I'm just going to go in there and clean it. Plus it bugged me so much. I haven't touched this barn since we moved. And, when you have a farm, you're just accumulating a lot of stuff. And like, I eventually want to do other things inside my big horse stall, but like I have all these like hoses and barrels, stuff that we don't use every day, but we do use throughout the year. And like, I need somewhere to put it. And I figure this other barn that we have, we need to utilize that somehow. So I think for now it's just going to be like a storage catch-all for stuff. Maybe my mower. So it's nice to have, but we were, just clean that out on the like coldest day, and it had like a ton of hay upstairs. There's like a hay loft. I don't mind digging through other people's trash if there's some cool stuff in there, but I don't know. I didn't really find anything that cool. I did find a scarecrow. I did find some old grocery store advertisements, which is kind of fun looking at and seeing what the prices were like. They had lined this one. I think it was a corn crib, probably, but somebody had lined it with these metal advertisements from a grocery store. I don't know. It looked like they were growing some kind of stuff in there at some point. Like there was like a light in there. This barn has no electricity, but there was like a light in there, and then it was all lined with metal. I was like, man, what's going on in here? But it had like, I was looking at the prices. It was like 89 cents for ground beef. I think they had eggs for 70 cents a dozen, 79 cents a dozen. And this was in 1985.
Those advertisements were from the year I was born.
Yeah, I mean, 1985 doesn't seem that long ago, you know? I mean, but to have it be, when you look at it that way, you're like 85 cents a pound for ground beef. I mean, what is it now for just regular ground beef at the grocery store?
$6 or
Yeah.
more.
It sounds crazy,
Yeah.
right? Like, it sounds so much. But yeah, so we cleaned it all out, after 3 trips to the dump. And I don't know. I think over time, I think, barns and stuff, they're just going to evolve into what we want to make it into. I'm happy to have them though.
Yeah.
But I guess the drawback to having already a barn on your property is that it's usually not a spot where you want it to be. It's like that barn. If that barn was like more up on our property, because it's kind of like by the street, if it was more up on our property, we would utilize it more. Maybe even for animals, like for our pigs or something. But it's in a spot that we never even go. So
You could turn it into a milking parlor and get you a dairy cow.
yeah, I could probably do that. I mean, you know why they moved it? They moved it and they dropped it right there at that spot because it was right by the street. They didn't have to go too far.
Right. Easiest.
That's probably why it's there.
too.
Yeah, that's probably why it's there.
Yep.
But like the ends of it is all concreted, which is interesting, and then the middle is just dirt. So you could just drive through it. It's like I don't know what they call it, running shed or running barn, where you could just drive through it. So I don't know. I don't know what that's going to be for us, but it was just interesting cleaning out all that stuff, which I wanted to do for a while.
So do you think you'll get your perimeter fence all put up this year now?
I hope so.
You hope
I hope so. That's still the plan.
Still the plan.
Got to have that positive reinforcement, Jason. Like, oh yeah, we're gonna get it done.
Yeah, we're gonna get it done. Well, if we could get through this section first. This section is going to be the longest section because we're putting in wood posts. We're not just putting in T-posts.
Yep.
And that takes a while to dig all those posts. Because we did 13 holes so far. And then
How are your shoulders after?
What's that?
How are your shoulders after digging all those holes?
Oh, I'm tired.
Yeah. I'm sure.
It's a workout.
Yep.
But then all these things are starting to pop up. Like, man, it's winter. I need to fix this. I need to do that. Like, while it's still cold.
Yep.
And I'm like, I'm not going to get all this stuff done before it gets too hot. But I need to focus on this fence, and then we could start getting animals.
It's a perfect time of the year, though, to do the fence. You're not sweating, and you're not.
Yeah.
For sure.
No, it's great. Yeah. I can't imagine doing it in the summer, and there's going to be a certain point where like, all right, time's up. Like, we got to stop.
Right.
But
good thing Randy's back.
I know. I was like, Randy, you're not going back home.
Or cleaned out that barn for you to stay in.
I know. You guys are spending the night. You guys are going to be here all winter.
So you guys have like a list of what animals you think you want to get?
I don't know if we have a list, but I'd like to get sheep.
Yep.
I think I want to get sheep before I get cows, just to try something new.
Right. Do you have a
Who knows?
particular breed you're looking for, or you just whatever you can find kind of this year?
No, I guess the only thing that worries about me as sheep is that they seem to get parasites easy.
Yep.
I don't know. It's one of those things you just have to try it. And I mean, I have a couple people that I've talked to now that have sheep, and so they might be having some babies soon in the spring anyways. I'm not too picky about it. Just whatever I can get.
Yep. We've had goats forever. We never had any issues with our goats with any like worms or anything. We always just kept doing herbal dewormers just like on a normal course. This year we got the sheep. It was a super wet year and we lost one to worms, and I think she came with them. But yeah, I think the sheep for some reason seem harder, but it also could just be the weather we had this year. I mean, it was wet.
Yeah, gates. I got to do gates. I'm trying to reuse gates, the gates that I have, because there's a bunch of gates here on the property, but some of them are really bad shape. But I think I'm going to have to make my own kind of livestock gate, because I'll probably end up welding maybe like a hog panel on the gate, because they're all like horse gates.
Right.
So I'll probably end up doing that, making my own gates like that. I haven't done that yet, but that's coming.
Now you concreting in most of your posts? For the
I'm just putting a half a bag of concrete per post.
Yep.
I don't know. I just felt like it would just make it more sturdier.
Right. Give it a good anchor.
Some people, yeah. I mean, because most of the posts that are in there now that are existing, they're all concreted in, most of them.
Yep.
And so I'm just kind of, I guess, mimicking that. Even though a lot of people tell me, oh, you don't need to do that. You just pound in the dirt, which I'm probably would be fine. But I figure, I don't know.
Right.
I'll just half a bag of concrete per post.
Right. You're already going through enough work digging the hole. Might as well take the extra precaution and get concrete in there.
Yeah, because it would suck if I, like, in 3 years, all my posts are slanted.
Right.
Everything's rotten already.
Yeah, I know. Like, I don't know.
They don't make pressure-treated posts like they used to.
But then, I don't know. I'll have more content to film.
Right.
If you guys remember 3 years ago when I was building all this fence, well, guess what? We're doing it again.
I know. I did it wrong.
You did it all wrong, like you said I would.
I know. All you folks told me to do this. Well, you're right.
I like the comments. You did it wrong. You never listened to nobody.
Yeah.
The you shoulds.
You should. I just laughed. It's like everybody's homestead is different. Everybody's property is different. Like, just because it works one way for one person doesn't mean it's going to work for somebody else over somewhere else. Or when you're seeing stuff on video, you can't show everything or show the whole context all the time. So people can't see everything, but they're like so set in their ways sometimes. Like, no, you're doing it all wrong. This is the only way to do it. I know. No, you don't know, because you're not here.
Yeah. I know, it's so hard to portray what we're doing in a short video, or even multiple videos. If you're not here in person looking at it, it's so hard for us to like film, and so they get the full story of what's going on.
Right. And you can't give a complete step-by-step everything you're doing, because the average person doesn't want to know all those details. It'd get pretty boring.
Or you say it now, but then the next video you don't say it, but then the person didn't watch that video.
Right. Yep. Exactly. And you don't know where people are watching from and what they did see and what they didn't see. So,
hey, totally unrelated. Something I've been wanting to like share with everybody who might care. I carry a notepad, and Meg found these notepads. It's called Write in the Rain. It's an all-weather notepad. This paper, you can literally write in the rain with this paper, and it doesn't get soggy. Like, it's really cool. You can drop the thing in a mud puddle, pick it up, wipe it off, and the paper's fine. Like, it's really cool stuff. I don't know if either you guys carry around a notepad or ever write in a notepad, but I thought they're pretty cool.
Now, can you write only with a pencil, only with a pen, or does it matter?
No, you can write with anything you want. It feels like real paper. It looks like real paper. I just carry a pencil because I can, sharpen that, and it fits in my pocket, whereas a pen is just a little bit too long. But yeah, you can write with anything you want.
Interesting.
Nice.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Like when I got them, it was raining. I stood out in the rain and waited till there was like a whole bunch of water on the paper, and then sat and wrote on it. And the paper didn't shred. You just shake it off, all the water comes off. It's pretty cool stuff.
I don't have anything cool like that.
I got an extra one you could have.
I'm trying to think what I have around me to show, but I don't have it.
I don't have anything. Nope.
Look at my new toy. That's what I just did right now.
Yeah. Yeah, we put that on the this year's Christmas list. when we do it.
right in the rain paper. Speaking of that, I found some of those Leatherman you were talking about a time ago, the like one-handed ones.
Which one?
Yeah.
You can find them on like eBay or something. They're pretty expensive.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're hard to
There's like
find.
one or two stores that I've Google searched looking for different things and they popped up. But
Did you get one?
no,
Oh.
I'm still debating on what to get for a Leatherman. It'd be nice and handy to have, but I don't know. There's too many options nowadays to choose from, so I don't want to pick the wrong one.
Yeah, so we'll end it there on that note. I appreciate everyone listening to these podcasts and watching, and make sure if you haven't, subscribe to our YouTube channel. And on iTunes, you could rate us and tell us how we're doing. And hope you guys have an awesome week, and we'll see you guys next week.
Have a good one.
Later.